So like I said like I said in my last video, if individuals don't push back, this will only continue to get worse. And of course, here in New York, they are currently targeting the Jewish population here, primarily the Hasidic Jews here in New York, and also to some extent within the tri-state area because of non-compliance. Again, like I've said in several of my other videos, that there are 23,000 hospital beds in the state of New York, right? And in terms of individuals who have tested positive, as of the 4th, we can see prior to the release of this information, right? So this was released on the 4th uh, by Governor Cuomo, right? So on the 4th, they were talking about a spike in cases. On the 4th, hospitalizations were 618. So of the 3,000, of the 23,000 hospital beds that exist within the state of New York, 618 of them are dedicated to individuals who have tested positive, which literally brings you to almost 2.7% of all beds are dedicated towards this pandemic, right? And as a result of that, and a result of seeing a spike in the number of positive swabs, the governor has decided to go ahead and basically shut down schools within 9 areas that they had said are hotspots. And he goes on to say that, of course, that they're also looking to shut down businesses.
And applying it in a very pinpoint manner. Now, the state has agreed on the need to close public and non-public schools in the 9 highest risk zip codes. So that will happen effective now tomorrow morning. That's an update now. The state determined they would rather have the schools closed tomorrow morning. So at the end of the school day today, those schools will be closed, public and non-public, in the 9 zip codes. And again, we're going to work hard to turn around those 9 zip codes so that in the coming weeks, kids will be able to come back to school. We've also presented a plan for closing down non-essential businesses in those zip codes. We're continuing to work with the governor's team on that plan. The proposal I put on the table is the basis of discussion. 9 zip codes, close all non-essential businesses.
And again, like I said, this is how, especially within democratic states, they seeking to, of course, control individuals. It's not because they're seeing a rise in the number of hospitalizations. It's just because of cases. And I put that in quotes because they use the term cases incorrectly. A case is opened when an individual comes to the hospital and seeks medical treatment. A positive swab that's done at a testing center does not mean that a case was opened for a patient, especially if that individual has absolutely no symptoms, which is what you see, which is why the hospitalizations are so low to the point of almost being non-existent. Think about that. Out of the almost 20 million people that live in New York, only 600 of them are currently in the hospital. Out of the 20 million, it's like 19.8 million people that live here in New York, only 618 of them are in the hospital for the virus. And yet, as a result, you're seeing both the mayor and, of course, the governor acting against science and against math and against the numbers for a narrative. It's not because individuals are getting sick. If they were getting sick, they would say that. They would say we're seeing an uptick in the rise in hospitalizations. But that's not what they're saying. And of course, this compromises your ability to both let your children be educated in the school systems. They're shutting down the private schools, which are typically in these Jewish Hasidic areas. And of course, they're shutting down non-essential businesses, right? So the government, if the government doesn't find the fact that you're non-compliant, then of course, you've got to stick to the narrative. If you're not willing to stick to the narrative, well, then we're going to shut you down. We're going to shut down your ability to feed your family. We're going to shut down your ability to run your business. We're going to shut down your ability to educate your children. And this is what happens in democratic states. And I keep saying this time and time again. This is what gets utilized in an effort to pit individuals against, again, because they didn't say, most of these areas are primarily Jewish areas, primarily Hasidic Jewish areas, but I'm sure that there are other businesses that are non-Jewish in those areas, as well as other children who are not of Hasidic Jewish backgrounds, and of course that will be impacted by this. And as a result, now you have that enmity, that hatred that starts to build between communities. Because if you actually go through the Twitter feed, that's all you see. All you hear about is the constant talking about the Jews, the Hasidic Jews. We need to go after them. We need to shut their businesses down. Stop, penalizing us. You need to send out the police there. And of course, individuals start coming into the thread and start naming different areas that they feel people are not compliant enough for their taste, or businesses that they want shut down because they feel that it's too crowded for them, or individuals who are out in the open, but of course are not utilizing masks to the degree that they would feel safe in their little safe space. And like I said, this will only continue to get worse until individuals start to take a stand, until communities basically rise up and say enough is enough. Just last night here in the city, there were a group of protesters who were blocking traffic in the local streets, and the police were ordered to stand down, and they were out there in mass. So it's okay for them to do that, and for the mayor to state for the police to stand down and not enact arrests, not remove these individuals, and not stop them from harassing drivers. But if you want to go out and go to church, well, then that becomes a problem. We can't have you going out and going to church. If you want to go out and act as business as usual because you see everybody else doing that, who is doing it in a negative way, and you say, well, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to go out and run my business and we're going to go business as usual, then of course, people will feel some type of way and will want city officials to act against you because, of course, they're being impacted. And if I'm being affected, well, then so do you, right? Because misery loves company. And like I said, all this is taking place because of a 2.6, almost 2.7% of hospitalizations for the current pandemic. It will only get worse unless people take a stand.